really happy to introduce you to Paul Sullivan, who is the person who is responsible for Covert Communication being invited to participate in the SunPower Preferred Vendor Program in 2017. So Paul, tell me, before you got to SunPower, what was your role and what did you do after you started with the vendor program?
Yeah, so first, thanks for the opportunity to sit down and chat. It's always a pleasure to chat with you, Anna. And prior to SunPower, well, I've been in the industry since 2005. After putting solar on my house, thought it was a brilliant idea. And I went from a $600 a month bill to a $40 a month bill, just like that. So had to share that experience and get into the industry. So started off with a company in the Central Valley of California and worked for them for a few years. Then moved on to Chico, California, where I worked for Alternative Energy Systems and became their sales manager. And when I started with them, it was the two owners, two installers, and a part-time secretary. And I left AES. They were one of the first three master dealers in the SunPower network. When I left them in 2015, we had I actually hired the 67th employee that morning. She actually is from Maui.
Oh, wow.
And I think we did something like 20 million or something like that year.
Wow.
So it was an incredible experience. I learned a bunch. I went from AES over to SunPower, where I was helping to grow the master dealer program, among other things. So, that just kind of grew into, channel marketing manager, and then ultimately the vendor program.
And what was your vision for the program? What kind of vendors were you looking for?
Well, it became apparent just through conversations that, we always wanted to create value for the dealers, right? Especially the master dealers, right? We're here, this elite group is essentially giving up their brand, right, and adopting the SunPower brand. So we had to create as much value as possible. And so the vision was to identify those vendors that they're already using, or at least the services, and find vendors that can provide those services, so digital marketing, insurance, those sorts of things, at a lower cost than if they went direct, off the street, so to speak. And then, quite frankly, having, the program self-fund itself through percentages and that sort of thing. And I think we did a pretty good job at it.
Yes. What was your impression of me when we first met?
Sure you want to go there? No, seriously though, I've been around, digital marketing space for, years. And so I understood, the basic concept, even though I couldn't pull the levers myself. But you just, your depth of knowledge was frightening, right? And knowing all the ins and outs of Google and Facebook and that sort of thing. So you definitely were the most knowledgeable person that I've ever met in that space. So
Thank you.
highly technical.
Good. So after Paul left SunPower, we worked briefly together, he as managing director for SunPower by ESA Solar out of Orlando. But since then, the company moved out of the residential space and now is focusing on commercial, community, and utility scale solar.
That's right.
Paul, can you tell us more about your role at ESA?
Yeah, so, after we left the residential space for a myriad of reasons, I was offered to help lead a team doing utility scale development. And so I have a couple of project developers, some land agents who are out there actively talking to landowners, and then a couple of interns. And so we're working on, my team is working on about 20 projects right now, developing them from ground zero to ultimately construction.
Paul, tell me, what are the biggest challenges you find or do you see coming for commercial and utility scale solar?
Well, I think that, initially it's being able to find qualified people. On the installing side, there's just a lack of labor, period. And so, although some industries, there's some, cross-pollinating skills, if you will, but like the solar specific, I think really needs, more training programs, college opportunities, that sort of thing. So definitely qualified people is probably the number one challenge that we have. That and policy, right? It's always an uphill battle with, when you're in an industry that's highly affected by legislature, utility policy, all of these things, you just don't know, what demons around the corner. For instance, we'd been in California, we've been battling this NEM3 3.0 thing for years. And, although, we put up a good fight, ultimately, the CPUC decided things against the residential and commercial solar industry in California. And, curiously enough, the same thing was happening in Florida, and last minute, Governor DeSantis came in and vetoed it down and saved the residential solar industry in Florida. However, Governor Newsom, who you would think would be pro-solar and pro-industry, didn't touch it. And so, let the CPUC just really kind of ruin things. And there's been a lot of people that haven't been able to adopt, the new policies and still trying to figure it out. And so I think, probably 20-30%, industry loss just like that.
Yeah.
So, and Hawaii, had the same thing happen, years ago with no storage, right?
It's true. And now, actually, we are about to fill up our CGS Plus program. That's Consumer Plus Grid Supply, which said that, for every 1 kilowatt back to the grid, you got 10 cents. But they would sell it to you at rack rate, which is now 41 cents. But I'm lucky enough that I have not one but two SunPower systems on my roof. And the first one was under the net metering agreement. And now, since we've sunset the coal burning facility last year on Oahu, we were able to, those who had an existing NEM agreement, were able to add additional solar onto their roof and then participate in this HECO battery rebate program.
Oh, cool.
So for every 1 kilowatt, I got $850 in a one-time check. So I got 2 Tesla Powerwalls and got basically like $8,500 from the state. And then every day between...
That's 2 for 1 almost.
Right.
Yeah.
And then every day from 6 to 7:30, they draw 80% of both batteries to help the state offset.
Okay, gotcha.
But it also means for commercial partners that you can get an extra 10% off on your tax credit. So instead of 30% ITC, it goes up to 40% because we're in an area that has...
retired coal plant.
Yes.
Yep. Gotcha.
Yes.
Yep. Well, that we also look for areas like that, for utility scale.
Right.
Coal plants, whether most of it is just decommissioning, naturally, these coal plants are 50, 60, 70 years old, some of them, and this is their end of life. And so, the more coal plants that we take offline, that energy has to be replaced with something, right? And so whether it's wind or solar, and then augmenting that with utility scale storage as well. But, you do get those adders for retiring, coal plants or...
Made in American.
Made in America, or, because the energy workers' unemployment rate is at a certain percentage, then there's another kicker for that.
Oh, wow.
Too. Yeah.
I didn't know about that one.
So I think it goes up to like 70% or something like that.
Amazing.
So, amazing. Yeah.
Well, and then now that you can basically don't have to hold a tax credit for the Mars Accelerated as well, you can exchange it.
Right.
Which makes it a game changer, but it's unfortunate that it didn't pass for residential.
Yeah, I mean, the having like direct pay for resi, that would be pivotal for, moderate to low income that don't necessarily have the capability to monetize the tax credit.
Right.
And so a lot of those folks are being, kind of left out. And this is, one of the things that, the industry has this cliche that it's only for the rich or whatever, which that's absolutely not true, right?
Yeah, we always like to say if you can afford your utility bill, you can afford solar.
Sure. But there has to be a funding mechanism to be able to, make that happen. So, and direct pay would be one of those things.
So are you financing your guys' own projects, or is it more like PPA or?
Yeah, so for utility scale, it works, mostly there's investors ultimately there's a system operator and an owner and operator. And then there's a power purchase agreement in there somewhere, right? So whether that's with like a utility like Amron or Duke or somebody like that, or, sometimes, large corporations will have the power purchase agreement. So like Google or Apple or places like that, to offset their carbon footprint.
So how are you currently marketing ESA Solar?
Well, we've gone back to the roots, Anna. It's like for utility, we, mostly just on LinkedIn and social media kind of stuff, very passive. But for utility, we don't do a whole lot of marketing per se. Amazingly enough, kind of the current thing is mailers. And I was dramatically surprised the first time we sent out a mailer, because I'm thinking direct mail. Are you kidding me? This is ridiculous, And because the gold standard is like 1%. If you can get 1% response rate, you're crushing it. Yeah,
exactly.
First one we sent out, it was like a 15% response rate.
Wow.
And like it's nuts.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and so that's kind of our first go to market, and then good old door knocking.
Yeah. Just
out there driving around the country, knocking on doors. So and it's really fun. It's all of the great things that I love about residential sales. Sitting down at the kitchen table and getting to know that person and hearing their stories and trying to solve a problem for them, right? The interesting thing, that's the same with talking to these farmers, landowners, right? You're getting to know them and building a relationship and trust. But the value proposition is drastically different, right? So instead of me trying to talk them into, buying something from me, we're offering them a diversified revenue stream, right? To lease their land for 30, 40, 50 years.
Right.
And, some of them are, lifelong multi-generational farmers that, have some, concerns with not farming. Some of them are just landowners that currently lease their property out to a tenant farmer. So, you get to meet all kinds of different people, and I'm learning a bunch about Midwestern farming.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah, exciting, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So where do you see the company going in the next 5 years?
We're on an incredible growth trajectory. In fact, like right now, I think we have like 7 or 8 open recs for like senior development, project development manager. We've got some real estate associates where these are actually the land agents that are out there knocking on doors and such. We're a pretty large privately held developer. And, we have relationships with large owner and operators that we do work for, development services for. So, I think that, following that trajectory and just growing and, we're people forward. And so, we want to maintain the culture that we have, because it's pretty awesome. And just adding people carefully and diligently, and just seeing where this thing takes us, but more so on the development side.
Do you still have your 2 primary locations, and you're in the Northern California and Orlando, or are you in more?
Well, we have a main office in Maitland, which is right outside of Orlando. In fact, we just expanded that because, and it's funny, when I first met ESA, I was working for SunPower, and they were the last master dealer that I brought into the program before I left. And so I went out to Orlando to visit with them, just to understand the DNA and make sure, it was a good fit. And I just loved them. And they were in this little office, and everybody was just like piled on top of each other.
I remember that old office.
Yeah, it was it was so small. And so then a couple of years ago we moved, and then now we've outgrown that space. We knocked down a wall and took over the next space over. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't been out there. So in December, I think I'm going to go and, for our holiday party and whatnot, and stay for a week. And because it's always interesting getting there. It's like, okay, whose desk can I use? Yeah. Right. So you're hot racking desks or whatever. But yeah, it's just an incredible organization. And, really, really happy that the opportunity came up. And I'm getting to learn something different too.
It is
Right,
really
so,
exciting.
Yeah.
The solar coaster,
The
right?
solar coaster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for our viewers, do you have any tips on, have you experienced any form of digital fraud? And do you have any tips on how to pick a partner and what to look for to prevent being taken advantage of, I'll say?
Yeah. I don't know whether it's fraud so much. I do have and we've talked about this many, many times. I do have a pet peeve with the lead generation companies. Because back in the day, for a modest budget, you could put together a digital marketing campaign and get plenty of organic leads, inbound. But these companies, and I won't name any, but you know who you are, have stepped in between, that solar contractor and the customer. And, what happens is that customer experience is just horrible. They fill out what seems to be a legitimate form, and all of a sudden, their phone starts ringing 24/7 and
Bombarded.
yeah, and it's a horrible experience. So if you do get to talk to them, they're already pissed off.
Yeah. Solar fatigue, I call it.
Solar fatigue. Yeah, that's
And then they just decide to do nothing out of fear of making the wrong decision.
Exactly. And so I really, really have a pet peeve with them. And, now some companies depend on lead generation firms. And, I've been thinking about this and it's actually just lazy marketing, right? And, we got to a point, experimenting with different lead generation companies and, the same horrible results, right? So, your CAC goes through the roof and you might get one legitimate lead out of like 50 garbage ones, and that's why we just completely stopped the lead generation stuff. So whatever was coming in organically, and then really focused on referrals.
Yeah.
And, a referral contract might be $600 CAC, something like that, right?
Take those all day long.
All day long. And so we grew our referral rate to like 60%, 70%. And like the last month that we were doing Resi, which was March of this year. Yeah, March of this year. It was 90% referral based.
Yeah.
And just a much more pleasing experience all the way around, right? The customer, has a trusted person that referred them to the business and whatnot. So, yeah. And as far as picking a partner, I would say just look for somebody that knows what they're doing and has your best interest at heart. And that unfortunately takes trial and error, right? And skinning your knees and whatnot. But that's really what it comes down to is having somebody that you can trust that really wants to help your business grow and scale. Yeah. And don't hire lead generation companies.
That I'm with you.
God, they're horrible.
It is,
Yeah.
and it's just very unethical. And now, and I will make a name, that now Solar Reviews, they've changed it again. And you can't pick between the two different types. Now there's, you can have a standard lead or preferred lead, and then there's a single, duo, trio, quad in each. So now you have 8 different leads, and you can't decide which one you want. So you just get, they basically to spend your money, and they give you whatever they want to. But there's really no difference in the quality of a single versus a duo,
Yeah.
I found.
Yeah.
And I'm, not saying that that's hopefully not for everyone, but that's an experience that we've had with our dealers. It's been less and less and harder to trust.
Yeah.
Yes.
I tell you, now that you brought up a name, I had a personal experience with that firm. We had a modest budget with them, and all of a sudden I read this blog post that was published by them, and we were a SunPower dealer. That's all we sold, right? And this blog post was talking about why SunPower wasn't worth the money. And it's like, are you kidding me?
What?
Yeah. And it's like, this is reduced. I blew my stack with them.
Wow.
And that ended the relationship right there. Just,
It's one thing you have on the other side. I'm a big fan of Best Company. They do like really good work. And what I really appreciate about them is that if, a lead comes in, let's say SunPower sells it to us at the same time, right? They will refund the client 100%. And that is, I think, the kind of partners you want that you can trust.
Yeah, we had a good experience with Best Company for sure. And again, I think they started with legitimate reviews and reputation management, right? And that speaks to like referrals, right? So, like to earn a referral, you have to have some review based, right?
And then ones that you can trust, because now, I mean, when you look at Yelp and what's going on with them, I mean, how can we even trust that these reviews are real? Because they won't take them down if we can prove that they're not, or show the ones that are legitimate if we
that are
prove
great,
that are real. And then none of the data matches, and it's really unfortunate because the consumer is the one who's going to suffer, and the business owner.
Right.
Now you have to pay $1 a day just to have a logo on your profile. So now, how, as I'm a consumer wanting to find the trusted company, well, anyone could put up a logo on another page.
Sure.
There's no verification process like Nextdoor has, where you have to, get the EIN and prove the company's identity and prove the homeowner actually lives in this neighborhood. There's no oversight. And that's, that's why this Wild Wild West is getting wilder online.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to accomplish with some making it more transparent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you looking forward to the most at the show?
The show for me, has always been just connecting with old friends, industry friends, and seeing where everybody, has moved on to. Always interested in looking at new technology and that sort of stuff. And then like this year, because I'm in a different role, getting to follow the CEO, Lindsay, around and, go into some different types of meetings and, that sort of thing. So, and again, just expanding my knowledge base and stuff like that. Yeah, I have a question for you. So, so in terms of like content writing, where do you see like AI coming in? Because like, I've played with ChatGPT and stuff like that, and it's pretty incredible that you can have content like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's going to actually level the playing field, because now, a lot of, basically everyone says, oh, if you use someone else's content, right? Well, as long as you change it 30%, it really doesn't qualify for a copyright. Yep. That mixed with how many people are writing all day long, there's over like 1 million websites a day being added to Google, something crazy like that. So I think that authenticity really is changing. And what's nice about a product like that is that instead of having to use an agency, anyone can kind of level the playing field and get copy that is at least appropriate.
Yeah.
Right. But it won't take away the need to then have your own really unique voice. And you have to be training the bot in order to kind of get any authenticity. So I don't think it'll like remove the need for agencies. I think it actually will increase the need for agencies because now everyone's going to look the same.
Right.
Right. So, but for us, we don't really use it very often. We're training a chat bot with a partner of ours that is, reaching out and texting clients, and about 50% of all appointments now are booked through text in residential solar.
Yep.
So I think that's an opportunity to help, reduce operation cost with having receptionists and the whole speed to lead.
Yep.
Really becoming more important.
Cool. Yeah, it's that's what I was thinking. On the way over here is with AI, that small solar company could, essentially if they have the right tools and stuff to be able to write content for ads and web and stuff like that to increase SEO or whatever. So yeah.
And then I think that's one of those things about SEO. It was such a buzzword, right? And everyone, I think we see it go in waves. People care about SEO and then they don't, and they care again. But for my clients, what I recommend is that we don't spend money on trying to get organically to the top of the page, because Google there can be 8 ads on the first page. Even if you have a rank of, let's say, 10, which would normally be on the first page, that still could be page 3. And then every combination of search words will yield a different result. So if we're saying utility scale solar, Florida, that's a different result than Florida utility scale.
Right. Yep.
So now how many different possible searches are there, and what are we willing to spend to try to get to the top and stay at the top? So you're spending thousands of dollars on a maybe and something that you can't control because others are also adding more content.
Yeah.
Especially for residential solar, we're never going to have more content than Solar Reviews or Angie's List or Yelp. But it doesn't. There's still a need for the search engine optimization, and the way that I look at it is more on page, because now there's new rules. Like in California, we just had that new consumer privacy rule, and that comes with accessibility. 26% of users online are qualified now as disabled in some way. So having really good alt tags, where we're reading, if people are using readers, they can read the picture, be able to consume the content, through different tools that make it accessible for them. And so having a good on-site rank, which means having a meta title and a meta description and alt tags, that then shows Google that your site's more valuable than others. And then that can directly relate to us bringing our cost per click down in Google search marketing.
Gotcha.
And I can always get to the top of the page there, right? And then we block the bots, because about half of all clicks are fraudulent. So we use ClickSease as my recommended partner for protection. And then you can feel more confident spending a little bit more, because we know that it's a real human. They're actually physically located in the place we care about, not VPNing from India or whatever it might be, pretending to be where they think they are. And then as we start to generate more content on site, and using press releases like EIN Newswire, for the very effective way to boost rank offsite because of how many different engines pick it up.
Right.
So for just $99, you can have a massive event in terms of backlinking, which then we do see will start to increase our search impression share at a decreased cost. That's kind of more of how we like to do it on our side.
Yeah, which that reminds me, to talk about something too, like the importance of writing good press releases and using those services to get that out there, because you never know, right, who's going to pick that up and what's going to happen, and like the backlinks and stuff like that.
It's amazing. Sometimes I go to SpyFu. It's my favorite, spyfu.com. You can put your email or your website in there, and then there's paid services, but there's also like free services where you can kind of see what how many organic keywords you have, and who are your competitors, and at the very, very bottom you can see the biggest backlink events, and I'll usually always see EIN there after a couple weeks. There can be millions of repostings,
right?
So it's very effective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool stuff.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. Love it.
Great. Well, thanks so much for agreeing to come and talk with me. It's because of you that I've had this. I'm here right now, so I really appreciate your support.
Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure.
Paul.